Okay, I'm sorry about that, everyone. My internet and OBS is just not working very well there, so hopefully it should be up and running properly now. So, we're gonna take a look at what's gone on this October. There's a lot of things that are moving, and as always, the message is everything is happening and nothing is happening simultaneously. It's like the James Bond game, everything or nothing. There's a lot of things that are a lot of moving pieces. It's very much, you know what it kind of reminds me of. I think a very good metaphor for how like the world is at the moment is, you know, like the spy movies, like James Bond movies or something during the Cold War, where there's almost a nuclear apocalypse and then there isn't one, but no one ever knows about it, and all this stuff is going on behind the scenes at all time that no one's really aware of. And so it kind of gives the impression that there's much less of a less happening than actually is happening. Well, that's one way of looking at it. I think that's an interesting idea, but anyways, we'll get to that in 1 second. So we have, I guess, three, maybe four big things going on in the world at the moment. Obviously, we have the continuation of the Ukraine cinematic universe. We have the presidential election. We have the Israeli war in the Middle East. And I think the one that a lot of people are overlooking, and I've seen some people talk about it, is the upcoming BRICS summit, which might be the missing piece. Might be the missing piece of the puzzle. So let's see here. Let me just post this to share this. Okay. So first, let's start talking about the US presidential election. So, my opinion of this has changed. Now, as always, I'll give you my sources. I've been watching a lot of real American politics. I find he's generally pretty good. I don't agree with him on everything. I think he's generally better than Red Eagle. Red Eagle tends to, I just kind of do like crazy over the top predictions that don't wind up going anywhere. I find tends to be his issue. But let's start off with this. So, the problem with doing election maps is there's two ways to do an election map. There's what percentage someone's going to win by, and there's the likelihood that they're going to win it. Like, Trump might not win Florida by like more than 10 points or something. But there's like a 95% chance that Florida is going to go Trump. I don't think there's really like any doubt at this point in time that that's a going to go solid Trump. I don't. To me, I don't think there's any doubt that New Hampshire, New Hampshire is going to go Democrat, but the margin could be pretty low. So I guess the question is: do you put it as safe? Do you put it as lean? Do you put it as likely? It's kind of hard to know precisely, to be honest. So from what I've heard, things are not looking good on the ground for Democrats. The early voting is favoring them, but it's not favoring them enough. So this is an issue you see a lot on Twitter, wherein people don't understand how proportionality and overrepresentation, underrepresentation per capita works. So I'm just going to make up some numbers, and you can maybe they aren't exact, but you'll get the idea. So Republicans tend to vote on election day. Now, this is often kind of a mess because it means if anything goes wrong on election day, it's a disaster. Like in Nevada, they lost a Senate election because there was a snowstorm in the most red part of the state. Um, uh, there is a snowstorm in a red part of the state, and those people didn't get to vote, and because they didn't early vote, they lost the Senate race, and with it, the Senate. So that is just something to keep in mind. Now, it's always probably going to favor Democrats, but the question is, how much does it favor Democrats? So let's say normally about 60% of early votes for Democrat. I'm not sure what the exact number is. It varies state by state. Let's say or let's go higher. Let's say 64% of votes, early votes, are normally Democrats. This election cycle, from what I've seen, it's moved quite a few points. So now it's, instead of 64% of votes are Democrat, it's like 58% of votes are Democrat, or 60% or something like that. So are they still winning the early vote? Yes, but they're winning it by a lot less than they were previously. And keep in mind, in a lot of these states, let me just go to 2020. A lot of these states were very, very close. I think people tend to forget about it. I think that's one of the reasons that ethics in video game journalism became so important. Was because I think if it had have been less close than it was, it would have been harder in some of the states. Like Arizona was like 11,000 votes. Wisconsin was what, 20,000 votes. Georgia was 10,000 votes. Pennsylvania was 20, was like, or I guess that's a bit more, but you get the point. The point is, in a lot of these states, a shift of like 64% Democrat early vote to 58%. Now, this is not 100%. Once again, they could be voting more on election day, but it is a good sign. Also, if you look at some of the polls among minorities, it's not looking very good. Now, the whole Trump is going to win the black vote is insane. It's never going to happen. Do I think, though, there's a chance he improves on it? Yes, I do think so. So some polls I've seen have black males at 20% Republican. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen, but blacks vote, what, like 98% Democrat or something? If you're able to move it from 98% to 92%, that's a lot. Keep in mind, for every person you flip, that's effectively 2 votes. It's technically, oops, sorry, wrong map. It's technically 2 votes because they're losing 1 and you're gaining 1. So when you have something like that, even a couple percentage points, and this is something I complain a lot why Republicans, I think, need to campaign more in urban areas. Because even if urban areas go from like 80% Democrat to like 76%, that can matter a lot at an entire state level. Michigan Muslims are going to be voting for, Michigan Muslims are going to be polling for Jill Stein. Jill Stein. I think actually Trump might be ahead in terms of Muslims. I don't think Muslims are going to vote for Trump. I think they're going to vote for Jill Stein or just not vote. And I think it's just going to depress the vote. I don't know why Muslims would necessarily even vote for Trump at this point in time, because he's basically the same as Kamala when it comes to Israel. But I guess because he doesn't actually have the current recent track record on the whole thing, it's not as bad. So that's happened. A lot of states have passed voter integrity legislation. I think in Pennsylvania, they have to, and you can maybe correct me, Constantine. In Pennsylvania, don't they have to stop counting like 24 hours after the election or something like that? Like they aren't allowed to keep counting votes for like a full week afterwards or something like that. I think a lot of the states because a lot of the swing states, Republicans have a majority in the House of in the House. So like in Georgia, I think they passed a whole bunch of stuff. Virginia, from my understanding, they passed a whole bunch of things too. I think North Carolina did. I'm not sure about Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan, but they have succeeded in passing quite a bit of legislation. It might be enough to put it over the top. Now, with regards to ethics in video game journalism, aka electoral fraud, I think to have it work, it has to be very close. Like, I think if Trump is up by like 100,000 votes, I don't know if that's, well, it depends on the state, but I think in order for it to work, it has to be like within like a couple percentage points. If Trump is up by like 3, 4, 5, I think it's going to be a very tough sell. So based on the polls that I've seen, From my understanding, Georgia is leaning Republican at the moment. They passed a bunch of legislation. Apparently, the people on the state election commission are partisan hacks who keep making last minute changes. So I think Georgia's going to do probably pretty good. Now, I don't know if people are going to come out for the minority vote. I'm not sure if it's going to come out as much for Kamala. I definitely think does not have the appeal to white people that Biden did. Like, look, Biden was awful, but as like a white male, he kind of reminds me of like if I had a drunk uncle, like great uncle who just showed up at family events and started telling tall tales of back during the 1950s or something and the shenanigans he got up to. And like Biden is likable. I'll say that much. He is stupid. He is well, at least he is now. He has dementia, but I mean, I like Biden. It would be fun to hang out with Biden, wouldn't it? Like hear him talk about corn pop, hear him talk about dead people. Like Biden would be fun to have for like a barbecue or something like that. Kamala is like just really unlikable. Also, Biden had the whole fake Scranton Joe that he was working class somehow. But I think Georgia is a lean Republican at this point in time. I have heard that Arizona is also in the lean category. Someone can correct me if they managed to pass some legislation there, but I think they've cleaned up their ground game quite a bit in Arizona. I'm not sure if really Trump or Kamala is a good candidate for the state. I think Trump is probably better. I don't know why they let Carrie Lake run for Senate. Um, Carrie Lake just kind of seems like everything she touches is a disaster. But yeah. One thing I will say about Hillary is very intelligent. Um, Hillary has a very is very smart. Hillary is probably like 30, 40 IQ points higher than Kamala, to be honest. Um, I think North Carolina, I never really consider it to be a real swing state. I think assuming that it doesn't what was I sorry, impact the ability of people to vote. I think it's lean to likely red at this point in time. From my understanding, people there are not happy at all with the federal response to the hurricane. So I think that's definitely going to cost them. So long as the people who are affected are able to physically vote, I don't think it's going to be good. We do have the complete disaster that has become the Mark Robson campaign. So that's not an exaggeration. Which thing that Hillary is like 30, 40 IQ points higher than Kamala. That isn't it. That's me slightly exaggerating. Kamala's probably like 100 IQ. Hillary is probably like 130, 140. Hillary is very intelligent. She's just not the best public speaker. Um, Bill Clinton is a really smart guy. Bill Clinton has a bit of the like good old boy thing, but keep in mind, Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. So always keep that in mind when you're talking about him. Uh, Pennsylvania, I think, is tilt to lean. I just don't see, like, to me, Biden seems like a good pick for Pennsylvania, not just because of the fake Scranton Joe. Hillary is not 140. Okay, maybe she's 130. I don't know. It's the IQ thing is kind of a meme in general, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, so Pennsylvania, I think Biden's a good fit. I think a lot of ancestral Democrats, a lot of blue dog Democrats, or as I like to call them, dead dog Democrats. Kamala, yeah, I don't know if Kamala is below 100 or if she's just drunk or high all the time. She acts like she's on like I don't know Xannies or just drunk constantly. It's weird. Um, but does like is Kamala really going to appeal to anyone in Pennsylvania? Like picture your average person in Pennsylvania. Okay, so who is the average white dude in Pennsylvania going to relate to more? I mean, if it's with Trump or Biden, it's kind of an open question. Trump's like a populist. He's got the machismo going, and stuff like that. So there is that aspect to it. And then Biden has his thing. When you compare Trump to Kamala, who do you think appeals more to the average person there? Like the guy who goes there and like eats cheeseburgers and gets shot and stuff like that. Um, Stuff like that. Yeah, I think Hillary's probably a drunk too. I just don't see like Pennsylvania not going for Trump at this point in time. I think it's going to take some pretty extreme fortification. I think honestly, I think RFK probably helps Trump quite a bit there. It seems like they've really upped their ground game. I personally think if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins the election. I don't really see a scenario where he loses Pennsylvania. I kind of feel if he wins Pennsylvania or Michigan, he's going to win the election. You people can agree or disagree with me, but that's kind of how I feel. I actually think Wisconsin is tilt blue, which may be a weird take that Pennsylvania will vote to the right of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin GOP just seems extremely incompetent. Like they seem to keep losing easy elections. They lost the governor election, which should have been easy. They lost the Supreme Court election. They lost it in 2020. I just think that they're going to fuck it up somehow. That they don't know what they're doing, and somehow they're going to pull defeat out of the jaws of victory. Michigan, I'm going to put tilt. I think Michigan is like, of all the states, Michigan and Nevada are the ones I have the least confidence in. It's like I think it's honestly Nevada has I've gone back and forth on. Like Trump has been up, Trump's been down. I think Nevada is going to be like less than like maybe half a point for Kamala. Michigan maybe like half a point for Trump, but I think those are going to be extremely close. But I do think I think North Carolina is pretty much locked down at this point. I think it once again it all comes down to Pennsylvania because Trump can lose. What can he lose? He can lose Michigan. He can lose Arizona. Um, so long as he wins Pennsylvania. So that is what I'm thinking at the moment. So I would say Trump is at about um I'd give him like a 60% chance of winning. A lot of stuff could happen, but I have heard rumors that that the Democrats are in total panic and they've started to give up on the White House and they're trying to move resources towards Senate and House races. I don't know if that's true. My understanding though is like Kamala never does campaign events and she's super lazy. Um, but the whole like Trump is going to win New York, Trump is going to win. He's not. I think he will do significantly better. And it is important to campaign in those states because of down ballot races, because of fundraising, because of a lot of stuff. My understanding is Trump has been saving his money. I think 2024. Let me just see here. I think Trump has not spent very much money yet. Um, just trying to find cash on hand. There's like no graph, there's no chart. Um, that's cool. My understanding, I think Trump is out racing Kamala. Um, let me see. Let me see. Maybe Wikipedia has it. I don't mean to use Wikipedia for everything. It's just that like the other sites just have such a shitty outlay that it can be it's this is just normally easier to read than the alternatives. By the way, what's this thing about Walls like molesting some dude when he was a football coach or something? Has anyone heard about that? Here we go, fundraising. I don't know. I heard some stuff about that. I don't know if that helps him or hurts him, to be honest. Um, okay, let's see here. Just trying to find it. Okay. Why is this such a like this is so shitty? I just want to see how much money they've raised. Like what the fuck is this? This is the ugliest looking shit I've ever seen. May is which it doesn't have the year. Okay, here we go. 2029, 2014. Okay, this is Q4. Okay, May 2024. I am looking for okay, so yeah, I don't know. I can't find it to be honest. Um I can't. My understanding though is Trump has saved a lot of his money and is probably going to do a massive ad blitz in the last couple weeks. So I don't know. I don't. He doesn't have it locked down. It's going to be very close. As always, for those of you who haven't voted at least once, get out there and vote for the Don. I have completely endorsed him this election. I know there's a lot of shitty things that Trump said and done. I think when it comes to him, though, the Don, though, you have to look at what he does, not what he says. Because let's be honest, Trump talks more bullshit than just about any other politician in my lifetime. And he will promise things and he'll say shit and he'll often say stuff that like to us is really unpalatable. But I'm not convinced he's actually going to do any of it. And I think at the end of the day, the people who think that he's as bad as Kamala are insane. Um, like the people who think it's going to be as bad if Trump wins, that he's going to start more wars than Biden. That well, maybe the war thing, but like hasn't John Kerry and Tim Walz and like Kamala said they want to change the First Amendment to make an exception for disinformation and fake news or something like that. I don't think that that's going to happen under Trump. I don't think he's going to appoint Supreme Court justices who are going to find that in the Constitution and are going to take your guns away. To be honest, there's that aspect of it. Also, just do you really want to be governed by Kamala? So, so that's where we are at the moment. Also, I don't really get the whole the attitude I find with a lot of the pro life crowd, who a lot of them are just honestly grifters. Um, but the attitude from them seems to be, and I'm gonna have to say this. They would prefer, I think, no restrictions to abortion to partial restrictions. So to me, they preferred it when Roe v. Wade was legal, the law of the land, to states having their own restrictions. That is the impression that they've gotten to me, they've given me, and I've seen people basically say that we can't support Trump because there's no federal, he won't do a federal abortion ban, whereas a lot of states have heavily restricted it. The reality of the situation is it's overwhelmingly unpopular, and states being able to do it themselves is probably the best that we're going to get. And the idea that Trump is going to should be like committing to something that is extremely unpopular, that is never going to happen. I don't know. Like, I think it's probably about as good as it's going to get at the moment. The reality is people support it. Whenever you have referendums, even in red states, people vote for it. Now, granted, that's because the referendums are garbage. I honestly think that the pro life movement in a lot of states deliberately like screws up the referendums, because if pro life laws ever do get passed, they're going to lose their grift. So they I think they there is a like desire to not have restrictions implemented, or not to have any kind of resolution to the issue, because then they won't be able to grift money. Let's see. Dems purging the party of anyone who isn't Zionist, so I don't know about that. So, there we go. That is the state in America. So I think it's likely Trump's going to win. Now let us go to Ukraine. Constantine, is there a better map? I can never remember. Is there a better map than the Deep State UA? I know you often will tell me there is one, and then I just completely forget about it because I'm a professional. So I take immaculate notes before every session. These are all good questions. Anyways, but looking at the Ukraine front, basically everything is a disaster, and it's once again the slow motion collapse continues to happen. Where's Chesav Yar? I think Chesav Yar is completely fallen at this point. Was it? I don't remember. I think it was. Sorry, I get mixed up just because there's so many. Uh, okay. All right, there we go. Um, Shasathiar is still holding. Okay, I think it's down. It's down to all that stuff. You could tell me Russia took 100 villages, and I couldn't tell from the map. Okay, so yeah, does this have recent changes to the front lines? I'm not sure. Yeah, Turetsk is under siege. What was the big city that there's a major point that fell recently? It wasn't Chesif Yar. I'm trying to remember what it was. Let me just look at my notes. Give me a second. Uh, Vuladar. That's what I'm thinking of. Vuladar. Vuladar. Ugladar. That is what I'm thinking of. So that fell. I think almost the entirety of the 76nd Mechanized Brigade got wiped out there because they weren't allowed to withdraw. So that was, I think, like their best remaining brigade, and it's been completely destroyed. The few remnants of it that are left have been sent to are being thrown back into battle almost immediately. I don't know how many people even were able to get out because they were not allowed to retreat. I mean, this is once again like if you look back at my coverage, the only time I really started to start shitting on Zelensky on a personal level was after the fall of Avdiivka, where he did not allow his men to retreat. I think in the case of Uladar, the commander of the forces in question just gave his men the order to retreat, despite Zelensky telling him no. He asked Zelensky if his men could retreat or surrender, and Zelensky said no, and he just ordered them to do it anyways. So he's been, I think, arrested and removed, and there's a new commander. But generally speaking, whenever there's a case where um, there's a choice between getting surrounded or retreating, Zelensky always picks the get surrounded option. In Vuhledar, I think something like hundreds of people were captured. The reports I heard was that, and this is something I've heard a lot of times. So basically, because they stay there until the Russians have surrounded it, what they wind up having to do is cross like swampy fields in the middle of the night in groups of like 4 or 5 people. And if they get detected, then the Russians immediately just start firing artillery shells at them and stuff like that. And it's a complete and total fucking nightmare. And once again, it's very brave men who do more than I think anyone could realistically ask of them. Having to put up with Sersky and Blinken and Biden and Zelensky and the other assholes who are leading them. New York was also badly encircled. That was another disaster. Let's go to Kursk. Now, my understanding is Kursk, I think, is enveloped at this point in time. I don't think it really shows it that well on Deep State UA, but my understanding is Sersky and Zelensky have been feeding more and more troops into Kursk. They've just been throwing more and more people in there, taking them off of other fronts. This is their big Hail Mary. They're somehow going to win. Russia, I believe, has it in double encircled, and they're going to just sweep down, cut it off, and kill pretty much, kill pretty much everything that's there. And then, I don't know, is there really anything between there and Sumy or Kharkov or anywhere else at this point in time? Now, Arestovich has said that he expects there to be a general Russian offensive in the next couple weeks. Possible, but I'm not sure. Russia might just be saying they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. They're making progress. They're destroying the Ukrainians. They're causing meltdowns and gnashing of teeth throughout Western capitals. They aren't taking very heavy casualties at this point in time. So I guess the question is, like, why would they risk it? At some point, they might want to do a general offensive if they think that they can cause the Ukrainian army to collapse. But doing offensives to try to cause a collapse are always a mixed bag. Sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't work. Sometimes you get like the Brusilov offensive, and it completely, or the Operation Bagration, where you completely destroy your opponent. And sometimes you get the spring offensive, where it doesn't succeed and you take massive losses and get a whole bunch of salients. So I don't know. There is also we're entering the autumn rains in Ukraine. Keep in mind that might slow Russia down, but it's not good for the Ukrainians because of how bad a lot of their bunkers and stuff are. So I don't think. Oh, muddy season is coming late this year. Okay. So, I once Chasiv Yar is completely fallen, is Pokrovsk. I can't. Sorry, I'm bad at pronouncing these. Pokrovsk. Is it the last fortified city before the Dnieper? Because I feel like that's the only one that they have left at this point in time. I mean, Kharkov is just going to be hard to take for the Russians by virtue of how big it is, if they even decide to go into Kharkov. I'm not sure how big Sumy is. I'm sure it's also would be a pain. But in terms of like strategically fortified cities, I think Pokrovsk is the last one. Pokrovsk. It's the last fortified city. And once again, as I've been saying, you have a lot of mini salients forming. Like, we have a mini salient there. We have a salient here. We still have all these Russian forces in the south that haven't been doing anything for a while. Prokrovsk. Sorry, I'm bad at that. I actually, as I said, I actually have a learning disability that makes it hard for me to pronounce things some of the time. Okay, so yeah, so things are basically going bad, but they're not really going anywhere particularly quick. Um, Schultz has had Pirate Schultz has come out and said, "Look, we're not going to get Putin to walk the plank. I'm going to try to bat phone Putin and try to get him to help us out." Um, Weeb Union thinks he's a grand strategist and creates his own strategies that he thinks Russia will take as granted. As far as I know, he's never served in the military. Sorry, Weeb Union does or Zelensky does? Anyways, what was I going to say? What was I talking Yeah, so Pirate Schultz is bat phoning, wants to bat phone Putin. Biden has said there's going to be no negotiations, there's going to be no surrender, there's going to be no stuff like that. Um, as far as if you could just give a brief update on the various mappers. So Dima, the military summary channel, I find just tends to get very excited. I don't think it's necessarily a bias, although he's Belarusian, so I'd imagine he's somewhat pro Russia. But he just, I find, tends to get super excited whenever something happens, and he just goes over the board and just tends to hyperbolize. Weeb Union, I find, just tries too hard to be neutral. Um, to the point where it just gets kind of I find his videos kind of boring. I just can't take DPA's accent; just irritates me, and I just can't watch his videos because of his accent. History Legends is good. My issue with him is he once again tries really hard to be neutral. So if Ukraine has any success, he'll make a video on like, "Oh, Ukraine's massive W" to try to do that. So that's kind of where I'm at with the various military mappers. I don't know if any of them are necessarily bad, but they do have a lot of the flaw. They all have their own flaws. So I do find it funny though how they keep saying that they want to negotiate, though they want a diplomatic solution. Um, every time they have a diplomatic solution, but there can be no negotiations with Russia. So Zelensky, I think Zelensky is Russia's best friend at the moment because if Zelensky was not in power, then Russia's friends would be pushing them to make peace on more favorable terms or less brutal terms. But because Zelensky refuses to negotiate or revoke the decree that prevents negotiation, Russia has basically 100% cover. Um, Basically has 100% cover, and they can just keep saying, "Oh, we'll negotiate with Ukraine," when I really have no interest in negotiating with Ukraine, and they never have to deliver on it because Zelensky won't negotiate. It is funny though when people in the West say that Putin doesn't want to negotiate, when I'm pretty sure Russia has said they're open to negotiating uh, ever since the beginning of the whole conflict. Also, they never mentioned that Russia can't negotiate with Ukraine because they passed a decree that legally prevents Ukraine from negotiating, and the repeal of that decree is never mentioned. I think that's probably too complicated to explain to the to America's leadership. So I don't know. I just don't know what Russia's going to have to figure out what their end game is soon. Um, are they going to go all the way to the Dnieper? What all are they going to take? Are they going to take Odessa? Are they going to take Kharkov? Are they going to take Kiev? Are they going to put the rest of the country under military occupation? Are they going to um Bob John isn't really bait, he's just schizo posts. So with the weirdest schizo posts I've ever seen. Like I'll give them credit. They're very creative schizo posts. It's something I haven't even seen anywhere else. So it's not bait. It's just I don't know. It's just he has the kind of mind that the rest of us can only dream of having. So yeah, I don't know. It's if you look at Medvedev, he wants to go all the way to Western Ukraine, but yeah, I don't know. I think Zelensky though is the safest man on earth because I don't think under any circumstances Russia wants him dead because he's completely and utterly incompetent. So then we have the stuff with Israel. Now there's not a ton to talk about with regards to there's not a ton of stuff to talk about. Basically, Israel still has not done their thing yet. My understanding is Biden is still trying to pay them a massive bribe to not attack Iran. And you just have basically everybody throwing shit and trying to bait each other. And it's all very G-slur. It's all very lame. Israel is continuing their offensives in Gaza and South Lebanon. Constantine, I haven't been able to find too much. My understanding is that the ground war is not going very well for Israel and Lebanon. I don't know if they're losing, but they're taking very heavy casualties compared to other fronts in this war. And Hezbollah, despite getting very badly beaten and battered, is not broken. And Hezbollah is putting up a hell of the fight. They have not collapsed, and they're largely intact. So that's my understanding. Honestly, I feel like once again, when this war ends, Hezbollah will be a much more prestigious organization. Has Israel occupied anything in Lebanon? Let me see here. Yeah, like yeah, I heard that it's just a complete and total shit show. To be honest. No, Deep State is run by like Banderites. So they have like Kaliningrad, they have things from the Winter War in red. They have they're meme lords. Oh, let's see here. Does this map have Lebanon? It doesn't. I don't know if it clearly shows the border. I'm not sure if they've really made any progress into to Lebanon at the moment. I don't even, like what is even their war goal in Lebanon? Like what is it that they hope to do? That's the thing I don't get and why I think the whole thing is just solely based on trying to start a regional war. Because like what is it that they're gonna do? Like they're gonna invade and defeat Hezbollah. Oh yeah, Deep State UA. They also have this cringe. If you click on the Moskva, it brings up Baby Yoda. I don't know why. Yeah, Victor Orban is a clown face. They're very immature. Their map's not bad, but they're very immature. I'm kind of surprised they don't have all of Western Russia as part of Ukraine. I'm sure that will come at some point in time. Let's see here. But I don't know. So, as I said in my previous video, I've heard that they're talking about clearing everything up to the Litani River. And they're just gonna ethnically cleanse the whole area. I don't think they've really gotten anywhere though, significantly. But they haven't been able to beat Hamas. Like the Gaza Strip is okay. Let me see if I can find a. Let's see a map. Let's see if I can find a map of the area. So that is the Gaza Strip there. The Gaza Strip is tiny, and they haven't been able to decisively destroy Hamas. Lebanon is like what? like 20 times the size of the Gaza Strip. Also, the Gaza Strip, I think, is largely flat ground and urban area. Southern Lebanon is like mountains and hills and rocks and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, if you look at it, they're just oh, okay, here we go on this map. So they've made like very small amounts of progress into Lebanon. Have they even captured any settlements? Like maybe a couple border towns? But they don't really seem to have gotten very far so far. They sniped the baby the day it was born. Yeah, that the Israelis do stuff like that. There's a lot of death squads and stuff like and things to that effect. So let's see here. What is the Lebanese army doing? Does the Lebanese army fight Israel, or are they just neutral, or um, I'm not in, or how does that work? I know Lebanon kind of barely has an army, and Hezbollah is more or less their army. Maybe one of the plans is to invade Lebanon and set up a pro-Israel government. Maybe that's the plan. I'm not sure, but that's going bad. So that brings us to the next big thing, and I have particularly the Duran has pointed this out that this might be the big reason why thing that everybody's waiting for, that Iran is waiting for, that Russia's waiting for, that Egypt and a lot of these other countries are waiting before they can go and uh, take full action, and that is the upcoming BRICS summit. So we are having a BRICS summit in Kazan. No, it's yeah, I think no, is it Kazan? I think it's Kazan. Yeah, Kazan. Let's see, is that next week? Yeah, we have a BRICS summit in Kazan next week, which a lot of stuff is expected to happen. We're going to talk about payment processors, a possible BRICS currency or unit of accounting, trade agreements, maybe military agreements, some weapons agreements for Russia and Iran. So I feel like Russia and Iran are hesitant to really act too much before the BRICS summit happens, as they don't want anything. Um, I don't think they want it to be derailed or it to overshadow the other things they want to achieve at the BRICS summit. Right, Israel. Yeah, Israel's also started killing peacekeepers because that's just the way they roll. Sorry, when I mean military agreements, I don't mean that Russia is going to like form a military alliance with Iran. I mean that they might selling the military hardware or stuff like that. I feel like a lot of these people are just kind of, if Putin's going to do something dramatic, it's going to be after the BRICS summit. Same thing with Iran, and maybe some of the other players. So it was kind of interesting, the last BRICS expansion. So as you all know, the original BRICS was just BRIC. So Russia, India, China, Brazil. Then it became BRICS when they added in South Africa. And then last year they added in a couple other countries. Egypt, Ethiopia, United Arab Emirates, and Iran, which I think were mostly. I find Ethiopia a bit of a weird one to add in, but I guess it makes sense because I guess they have good relations. I think with China and Russia. I'm not sure about India, but the idea I think behind BRICS is to create an alliance of the up and coming powers that will challenge the Western led rules based international order. So I mean, Iran makes perfect sense. Egypt makes perfect sense to invite in. UAE does. Saudi Arabia's status in BRICS is really hard, but the Saudis are always, frankly, cocksucking backstabbers, so it's very hard to know. Um, we'll get to the light blue countries in a second. Um, it's hard to know if Saudi Arabia is in or out because they just basically backstab everybody. I really hate the Saudis. I hate the Saudis probably more than I hate Israel. Saudi Arabia was kind of in BRICS, but kind of isn't. So the blue countries are countries that have applied or expressed interest in joining BRICS. Is is what it is. What am I salty about? Saudi Arabia is based. Yeah, it is. It's Israel light. Islamic Israel is basically what Saudi Arabia is. Anyway, so yeah, these are the other countries that have applied to join BRICS. So the question is, who else would be good to add in? Now, there's a debate, whereas I think that uh, India is against BRICS expansion, whereas the other countries are more pro BRICS expansion. So the question is, who else are they going to pull in? I guess there's also the question, who do they want to add in? So far, they've mostly had relatively big countries, other than the UAE, of course. So they want to bring in more smaller countries, more middle countries, less big players, stuff like that. Um, so it's an interesting question. But no, but Saudi Arabia is pro-Israel. Like I don't really get why you would be anti-Israel and pro-Saudi Arabia because they're kind of the same thing at this point. And well, they're on the same side. Also, the Saudis just backstab everybody. But yeah, so the question is, who wants to join BRICS at this point in time, or who should they let into BRICS? Um, I think for me, the countries that make the most sense to bring into BRICS would be, I think Vietnam is a no-brainer. Um, Vietnam has always had good relations with Russia. They're a middle power. They're a rising country. I think they would make a lot of sense to be part of the BRICS. So I think if we're talking about it as like Russia, China, India, and friends, I think they make sense. The problem is with countries like Belarus. Belarus is a satellite state of Russia, so I don't know if we really want to start bringing in satellite states or stuff like that. Um, I'm trying to think. Honestly, Colombia is too much of a U.S. ally. I feel to be in the BRICS. Uh, Cuba's a possibility, I guess. I don't really know what it would add. I guess it would. I don't know. Of the countries that could join, I'd say the ones that make the most sense would be um, Vietnam and I think that's the main one, honestly. I think they have to be careful about overly expanding. Indonesia is an interesting one, but I'm not sure if Indonesia, like how tightly allied Indonesia is. Um, but like a lot of these countries, I just wouldn't want to be in the BRICS if I was them. Like I wouldn't want Ethiopia to be in the BRICS. Maybe if North Sudan was stable, maybe, but maybe Kazakhstan. Okay, let's see. What if I had to pick like a couple countries to join? I would say Kazakhstan, Vietnam, Malaysia. I think would probably be decent picks um, to join in. I think are the most logical ones. I don't think they should be incorporating states that are in the middle of like failed states or states that are in the middle of civil wars. So yeah. Now there's the Turkey question, which is or sorry, that Turkey. as they want us to say question. Turkey, yeah. So Turkey is obviously a member of NATO, but they've also applied to join the BRICS. Now, I'm not sure which way that they're going to go on this one. If they're going to be allowed to join the BRICS, if this is because basically how Erdogan works is Erdogan are um, Erdogan is a backstabbing cocksucker who tries to get whatever he can out of whoever will give him money. He knows that his country is in a very strategically and economically important global position. Beside that, Turkey has probably the second strongest army in NATO. Um, they're the strongest country in the Middle East. I don't know who would win Turkey versus Iran. It's an interesting question. I'm just not sure if Indonesia's ready to incorporate. I'm never really sure what Indonesia's geopolitical alignment is. If it's just completely neutral, if it's more pro America, if it's more pro what? Somebody somebody brought up an interesting. I remember in one of my videos, someone said, "Why doesn't the U.S. just join BRICS?" And it's like, I mean, that is kind of the attitude. Uh, like once again, none of this has to be that bad for the U.S. I like what the Indian ambassador said when they or the Indian foreign minister, they talked to him and he said, "Look, we have good relations with America, we have good relations with Russia, we have good relations with Europe. We have options. That should be a sign of accomplishment to us. That we aren't like stuff like that. Um, like once again, there's no like we're talking about this inevitable war between the U.S. and China. Why does there have to be a war between the U.S. and China? I don't know if anyone's like really asking that question. Like, look, I'm not the biggest China fan in the world, but could we just have like as I said, there needs to be a new percentage agreement. There needs to be a new sphere of influences where where America acknowledges that China is a great power, that it has its own interests, that it has its own sphere of influence, and that there needs to be some form of détente, and there needs to be rules, and there needs to be some way to prevent the thing from escalating. Likewise with Russia, I don't see why they can't cut a deal. They can't come to some sort of an understanding. I think America is obsessed with the idea that it is still the 1990s. It is the hyperpower. There is no one else who's strong left. So, as I've said, and I'm kind of curious to see what people in chat have to say about this. I think the U.S. is still the sole superpower in the world. I do think there are two great powers, though. I think Russia and China are great powers. Um, and America's the sole superpower. So, people in the chat, what do you think? Is that inaccurate? Am I overestimating America? Am I underestimating China and Russia? Am I underestimating Britain, France, and Germany? People can just respond in the chat to that, but that tends to be where I think that the world is. There are some countries that probably could be great powers. I just don't think they. Okay, so I don't think France and Germany are because of how bad their armies are. I think they might have been great powers like 20 years ago, but I feel like Project Ukraine completely destroyed, hollowed out their militaries and destroyed their economies, and they're not nearly as strong as they used to be. Uh, BRICS needs to become an anti-liberal union. Yeah, Putin sometimes, as I said, I think the reason why a lot of countries want to join BRICS, and I'm sorry if I repeat myself a lot, but not everybody watches every video. America used to be a good sugar daddy. They used to be a great sugar daddy during the Cold War. You just had to say communism sucked. I like to buy and sell things. And they would give you money, they give you weapons, they give you diplomatic support, they give you all kinds of stuff during the Cold War, and that's all you had to do. Post Cold War, it's like you have to abolish your state religion, you have to pass abortion, you have to make abortion 100% legal, you have to have gay marriage, you have to have unlimited immigration, you have to get rid of whatever your governmental system is and adopt generic neoliberalism. And there is this endless stream of stuff that you have to do to be America's friend. For America to even take your calls to begin to negotiate with you, you have to completely prostrate and humiliate yourself. Russia and China, you can say what you will about them, but they just want to make money and they just want to do business. Um, let's see here. Like they'll go to they won't do this whole like, oh, we can't buy resources from third world countries because the third world countries are run by corrupt governments. They'll just be like, look, Sudan, you want to sell us oil, we'll buy your fucking oil. We don't care what your internal politics are. We don't care what like human rights or whatever. We'll just buy your oil. We'll give you either the money or the infrastructure, payment in fiat or payment in kind, and that's it. And for a lot of countries, that is a very attractive deal. That they don't want to have to deal with all of America's nonsense. Just a purely business relationship is good for a lot of people. Now, this is a much less tight alliance. Will any of these countries stick their neck out for Russia? Probably not. But I don't know if people keep seeing the whole like Russia is isolated narrative. Russia's isolated. Russia has no friends. Russia is sanctioned by every country on earth and stuff like that. I mean, they can trade with all the BRICS countries. They're all pretty strong. Requited points out that the U.S. runs a regime change in most countries every 5 to 10 years. Russia stays with their allies as long as they can. Um, yeah, like once again, and we'll talk about this again. How many countries has the U.S. regime changed or attempted to regime change in the last 20 years? Armenia got regime changed with Pashinyan. Georgia, I think, got regime changed previously, which led to the Georgia-Russia war. But when Georgia was trying to pass the thing to kick the NGOs out, there was another attempted regime change. Ukraine's undergone at least two, maybe more than two. Moldova's undergone one or two. Romania has. Um, Serbia was like destroyed by the U.S. multiple times. The current government there is even pro NATO, but they attempted to go do a regime change there. You had the Serbs for Violence organization. Um, Serbs for Violence attempted to overthrow the current government, but it didn't work. They've definitely attempted Hungary. Who else have they tried to regime change? Uh, I'm not sure about Western Europe. I think they're definitely involved with trying to prevent populist parties from coming to power. Oh, Slovakia, yeah. I am 100% convinced that the guy who tried to kill Fico was a US plant. If you look into like his background, he glows like the sun. Um he glows like the sun. I my schizo theory is that Abe was Taiwan underwent the Sunflower Revolution or the Sunflower Student Movement, and I think there was some stuff in the last some shenanigans in the last election. I personally think that there's I don't know. My schizo theory is that the U.S. killed Shinzo Abe to try to destroy the conservative movement in Japan, so that they would open up to immigration and gay marriage. That's my schizo theory, but you can agree with it or disagree with it. Um, I'm curious if they were what the position was with Brazil, to be honest. But no, like that's just a couple. Oh yeah, we have Libya, Syria, Iraq, the Palestinians. They try. There was multiple attempts in Turkey. Yeah, stuff has happened. I think the Philippines had a regime change operation. There's been a lot. Oh, Thailand. Thailand has made gay marriage legal now because the oligarchs who were funded by the National Endowment of Democracy over succeeded in seizing power. But so I think Russia and Iran and China and etc. are still probably um, Russia and China are probably waiting if they have any major moves until the BRICS summit is over, until the treaties are signed, whatever it is they want to do. They decide what new members that they're going to bring in. I think that's how it's going. No, Abe was out of power, but he was basically operating like a cloistered emperor. The Abe faction was the strongest faction within the Liberal Democratic Party. So he was basically in the background. You're right, Pakistan was regime changed a couple times ago. Yeah, Bangladesh. Now, for some of these to be fair, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, they right. They did. They're right. Thank you, people. I'm forgetting about these. There was the one in Belarus that didn't go anywhere. There was the one in Kazakhstan that didn't go anywhere, but they tried in both those locations. Um, Now, with regards to Bangladesh, to be fair, it's not always that the regime change happens with no context. Like the regime change doesn't just fall out of a coconut tree, it exists within the context of what was in the nation before. So, was Bangladesh run by an extremely corrupt, nepotistic, incompetent socialist government who implemented the harshest affirmative action laws on earth? And that's what led to the uprising? Yeah, probably. Did the US spur it on and help it succeed? Yes, probably. How do you even survive colored revolutions by the US? I think how you survive them is you don't compromise. You just have to. Um, Bangladesh was proven to be a US op, but yeah, you're right. Um, oh yeah, Poland, right? Um, no, you just can't compromise. You just have to completely be ruthless with smacking them down. You also have to kick out all NGOs. You can't allow NGOs to operate in your country. They have to be removed, and you have to just not compromise. Because what happened with Yanukovych agreed to another round of elections and ordered the army to stand down and not shoot the protesters. And that's how he got overthrown. If he had have just told the army to start killing people, he might have been able to survive. But Assad, like you can't compromise with them. You can't use use it. Oftentimes they'll use it to put the foot in the door, to bring in more NGOs, to remove restrictions on the media, whatever, and it'll just make the situation worse. So you just have to go full balls to the wall and not compromise with the movements. Also, get rid of that. Yeah, no, Turkey failed coup. I mean, yeah. I mean, once again, as I said with Bangladesh, it's not as if that these countries don't all have major problems. Like that, a lot of these countries aren't unstable. A lot of these countries don't have, like, once again, in the case of Bangladesh, the government was like this incompetent, corrupt, great socialist tyrant who brought in extremely unpopular affirmative action laws. So that is true, but they also did play a role in attempts to regime change. Um, Likewise, I'm sure the Armenian government they removed was incredibly corrupt and incompetent as well. Um, it's not as if like these come out of nowhere, although in some cases it's like Hungary and Slovakia, it is more of a come out of nowhere type situation. I'm kind of surprised Mongolia doesn't want to join BRICS. I guess Mongolia is just happy being neutral. I like how someone described Mongolia as a country with an infinite money glitch. They have I kind of like Mongolia. Their deal is they're just bordered by two great powers, neither of which wants to annex them, and they can just get stuff from both of them. And they have a tiny population in a huge country, and they can just kind of be chill. And that's how it is, and I think I think it's going pretty good. For Mongolia. What was funny is when Putin visited Mongolia. Mongolia is a completely failed state, is it? I don't know. I just think it's like just an irrelevant, like nothing burger of a country. But yeah, when Putin went to Mongolia, the EU demanded that they arrest him and extradite him from Mongolia. How that would even work, I don't know. Is Mongolia bordered by Kazakhstan? No, I don't think so. So they would have to fly through um, the Russian Federation or China, and I'm sure they would allow that to happen. I'm sure that they would allow that to happen. Well, with regards to Turkey, I mean, it could be either way. Like the two things aren't mutually exclusive. The U.S. could have been involved in regime change, and Erdogan could have used the crisis, or Erdogan could have egged the crisis on. It's none of these things are mutually exclusive. If anything, the fact that multiple parties would benefit makes it more likely to have been the case. So let me find it. The Putin. I like the drip of the Putin visit to Mongolia. I love the LARP. Look, you have the guys like with the Lamalar armor, the traditional Mongolian guys. I love that. It's amazing. You got all the Mongolian soldiers. I mean, also Putin's a manlet, but he's an alpha manlet. What's this? They met inside of a luxury yurt. Okay, I love that. That's so larpy. That's fucking amazing. Uh, Let me see if I can find the fake the count. The protest is amazing. Where is it? They try to make it look bigger, but there was like five dudes there. Yeah, like that's the Mongolian. That was the anti-Putin Mongolia protest. It was literally the State Department could only find like six dudes. Oh, he spun the big wheel. Cool. I don't know. As I said, I think Finland made a bad call joining NATO. I think neutral Finland was in a good place, to be honest. Yeah, Mongolia kept trying to join the USSR. I'm still bitter that they didn't allow Malta to join the UK because that would have been awesome. Imagine if Malta was part of the UK. I mean, that would be cool. Then they could, I guess, go for vacation there, and I just love Malta. Malta's just a cool country. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the video for showing up. I hope you all had a great time. Have a really great weekend. And oh yeah, before I forget, please pray for Serp and his family. I think his daughter, or sorry, his child is going to be okay. They've managed to get through it okay. They're going to be all right. His wife is still in kind of a rough shape though, so yeah. I so just yeah, please continue to pray for Sir. And his family. It's been very difficult for them, and his wife is in kind of a rough spot. So